Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, and you're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Karen Camp. Karen grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, and attended Rockhurst University on a basketball scholarship. She graduated with a BA in psychology and a minor in theology. Life has taken her in many directions, from dude ranches in Colorado to outdoor ministry in Alabama, from productive home services in Texas to Mary Kay Cosmetics in Missouri, and currently to head coach and manager of Revolution Boot Camp in Georgia. So you've had quite a journey.
You say those things and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yes. So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about you? Like, okay, so where did you grow up? How did you go through all these different pivots and changes in your life?
Turns, exactly. I grew up a Midwest girl and went through my whole life revolved around sports. Grew up playing every sport there was possible. And though I thought I was going to play soccer in college, I really wanted to go to Regis in Colorado and play soccer. I ended up on a basketball scholarship in Kansas City, which is entertaining because what you can't see in the podcast is I'm all of 5 foot. I say 5'1", and my husband, who's 6'4", says on a windy day when your hair is 5'1". But defense was my game. That was my jam. So from there, I ended up doing what's called Outward Bound, and it was a 28-day alpine mountaineering thing. Phenomenal. And on that excursion, I met a gal who worked at dude ranches in Colorado. She's like, oh, that's what you need to do for your summer job. So applied for it and ended up blowing out my knee. I got accepted, ended up blowing out my knee in basketball and couldn't go that summer. So they guaranteed that I would have a spot the next summer. And so I rehabbed my knee, got back out on the court, and not a month later did the exact same thing to the other knee and blew it out. And oh my gosh, I was determined though that I was not going to miss this summer. And as plans above ours go, that was the year that my husband, now Phil, was at the ranch as well. So had I gone the year before, I would not have met him. And so my knees were my sacrifice to get to my husband, and that was a good thing. So that's how I ended up in Colorado and on ranches. And we decided, yeah, that's what we want to do. I thought I married money. He thought he married money. None of us had money. So that didn't work out. And we ended up, he was a program director and then later a director of outdoor ministry camps in Texas and Alabama. So that's what took us down there. And then we started having children and we're like, ooh, let's get back around family. So we moved back home to Kansas City. And that's where I did Mary Kay. Oh, in Texas, that's right. I was the protective homemaker, which was a side branch of Child Protective Service. Oh, Lord, that was a long 6 months of my life. Oh my gosh. I just pray for all those people that have that as their position. Because that's rough. Then we moved, then we got to Kansas City. Then I was doing Mary Kay Cosmetics. And then my husband had a job transfer and ended up here in Atlanta. And so that's how we ended up down here. And while I was marketing This Is the Day, because somewhere in all of that, God placed This Is the Day on my heart, and I was marketing it down here, and that's actually how I found CrossFit. It's so crazy, Kimberly. It's so crazy. So I'm in a church trying to promote my This Is the Day ministry, but really I just needed something to belong to, and I was looking for, like, I hate to run. And this is how desperate I was. I was looking for a running group. I know. Oh my gosh. They're like, well, you should maybe look at this thing called CrossFit. And there's one in this town. Because I was in church, I thought it was this religious workout because it's cross. And I mean, it has been a journey ever since. Yeah.
I was gonna say.
It was not a religious workout, although we do pray often while working out. The nature of the workout. Um,
Yes. And some of the music is definitely not religious. That's
oh, dear. It's, it's, we've learned to ask for forgiveness. And oh my gosh. So fast forward 10 years from that day, and here we are now. And yes, I'm still involved in the CrossFit, but my shift has come to really back around to this is the day.
nice.
Ooh.
So yes, and
Okay.
I can attest that you are one of the best coaches I've
Aw,
ever had.
thank you.
Yes, yes. So,
Look at you trying to get out
thank
of
you
work tomorrow.
for me. I know. I might change my mind tomorrow morning, right? When I'm feeling like dying.
I'll just turn the music up for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's the thing about CrossFit. It's never easy because as soon as it gets a little bit easy, we just make it harder.
We do.
Never gets easy.
Make you better.
That's right. Make me better. So, you've mentioned this is the day several times.
Yes.
What is it?
What is it? Oh my gosh. So there I was in Mary Kay Cosmetics, and it was really, oddly enough, a rotten time in my life. I was, in looking back now, I can literally say inside I was in this massive anxiety. I don't know if depression is really it, because I didn't necessarily have the outward appearance. Nobody knew anything that was going on in my head. It was more just mental struggles. And I went to this workshop like this. My arms were crossed and I totally didn't want to be there. And there was this guy, bless his heart, named Sean Smith, who was presenting on limiting beliefs and um, and the power of breaking through this thought pattern. And I totally didn't want to be there. And you know, because you've spoken to audience and you have that person sitting in front of you with their arms crossed, head tilted, like whatever. Could you hurry up? Because I'm hungry. And I'm looking around in this room. That's how I was all weekend too. Ugh, just a joy to be around. Um, I'm looking around this room and all these ladies are crying. And I'm like, seriously, Lord, if we would have learned these things when we were kids, it would save us all of this ridiculousness that's happening right now. In myself included. I mean, I wasn't like, oh, you poor people. I found myself, I was in this and I was wallowing in these limiting beliefs. He finally put a I don't know if label is the word, but an explanation to it. To these thoughts were pulling me down because I'm not a negative person. And here I am, I wound up in this bottom of this pit going, yeah. And so my thought was, if we learned this as kids, holy cow, what a difference it would have made. And I understand that we're all on our own journey, and it wasn't my journey to learn it as a kid. I needed to get to where I was so that I could learn it to then take it to children. And so that was January of 2008. And I mean, I fervently prayed and prayed. I'm like, okay, God, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. This is what it's your will. I just know it. This is what I want to do. And he made me wait for 9 months. And so I call it my baby. The first, and without even knowing it, the first thing that I did, I called it Building a Better You. And then the acronyms were BABY. And I'm like, 9 months. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And what I found was that all the people I grew up with were now principals and in charge of these schools. And I'm like, oh, that's entertaining. They all need to be in charge. And they looked at me and they go, well, that's entertaining that you want to speak to kids. All right, we'll both keep ourselves in our spots. And remember that we've grown out of who we used to be and now we're adults. But it was so awesome to have that connection at home, to be able to share the word that get a sense of who God has made you to be. Find these teenagers, find these women, and help them get a sense of who God's made them to be. And then the understanding that we play such an active role in the plan that He's laid out for us. I feel like we all can get into this. We're just a product of circumstance. Like, oh, that's the deck I was dealt. And so those were the cards I was dealt. So I have to just play this hand. No, no. One of my favorite things Sean Smith said is, we're not trees. We don't have roots. Get up and move. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the whole idea, is to help people get a greater sense of who they are in God, and then how they play an active role in that. And so this is the day as 3 different types of avenues to do that, from speaking, coming and doing workshops or retreats and things like that, to life coach, being able to be one-on-one with teenagers and women. And then the third one that has this, team, that is something, I just can't remember what it is. No, it's team building with sports, because that was such a huge part of my background, going into these sports and talking to girls and how to be an individual on a team. And if you don't know who you are as an individual, then I guarantee you're not a very good teammate. So it's in building what it means to be part of a team.
Wow. So 9 months to incubate all that.
Oh, yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the techniques or things that you teach when you're talking to teens and women?
As silly as it sounds, really allowing there to be space to find out who you are. So I do this thing, I call it the name game, and everybody gets a index card, and I've already pre-written names on it, and it's names of like celebrities and people that they would know and can describe. And so everybody gets it. They don't know who it is. They hold it up on their forehead. And so everybody around them can see who they are according to their index card. And then without literally saying the name, people have to describe them and give them characteristics and kind of how the news would describe them. And they have to guess who they are. And the whole point of that is how often we allow the outside world to tell us who we are, when in reality, that probably really isn't a very good description of even the people on the index card. It's just how we know them from our little speck of a view of them. So pretty much all the things start off with the exercise of finding out who you are, and taking this little quiz, if you will, and circling the adjectives that describe you, but that you describe you as, not how you've been told you are or what you wish you were, but how do you describe you? And that's the beginning. That's the beginning. And sometimes that's really hard because we haven't allowed ourselves to look at who we are as opposed to who everybody else says we should be.
That's true. And there's always so many voices wanting to tell us who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there a daily practice that would help people with that? Or how do they, so many times people go to a training or a workshop and you're all excited and motivated, but then you go home and there's just no continuance. Right. Is there something that you give people that they can continue on the journey?
I think with anything, when something is so powerful, and when you're at those types of things and you're like, I will never forget this, and then you walk away and sleep one night and then you forgot the whole day, and all of that. But I mean, at the moment you're like, life-changing, I'm never going to forget this. So Mary Kay used to say, the faintest pen ink is stronger than the strongest memory. And so writing the things down makes such a difference. But then, so what? You wrote it down and you shut the book. And I'm very much an out of sight, out of mind person. So yes, I wrote it down, but then I turned away once again, slept again, and will never think of it again. So every day, putting those things in front of you, making sticky notes, the post-it notes. I think you've done this before with the I am statements.
Mm-hmm.
And it's reminding yourself who you are. I am strong. I am whatever you have been shown that through God He made you to be, and putting those on your mirrors, putting those in the car, which everywhere you are, regardless if you believe it yet, because truth doesn't rely on you believing it or not. Truth is truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And when people wake up in the morning, what is it about what we think about when we first wake up?
Oh, first thoughts of the day. First thoughts of the day are so important. Okay, so I have people close their eyes and picture themselves in their bed, and they're nice and cozy, and your room should be cold, so you're snuggled in your blankets, and your pillow is the best pillow ever, and all of a sudden the alarm goes off, or however it is you're woke up, the baby cries, the dog barks, um, and your first thought of the day is what? And it's so fun to do this with everybody, kids, adults, because everybody pretty much has the same look of disgust on their face of, I hate mornings. I don't want to get up. It can't be time yet. And if your thoughts create your words and your words create your actions, then you just started this trail of negativity. Because the first thing you think, I hate mornings. And if you're a mom and the next thing you have to do is go get a kid up for school, and you're like, and then you walk into their room and you're like, get up. I don't even want to be up. You get up. And the kid, that is how they're woke up, and this whole little circle of events happen. So the idea is, how do we change the first thought? How do we take the first thought captive? And instead of, when the alarm goes off, saying, I hate mornings, the first thought is, this is the day the Lord has made, and something good's going to happen to me. And that good, you can't see it on the podcast, but can you feel it? You got to wiggle and you have to smile. Because you can't be grumpy when you go good. And it's just entertaining. So if that's your first thought, that this is the day, look, He woke you up again. That means He's got something amazing planned for you. Now your next thought is, I can't wait to find what the good is. And we go on the scavenger hunt for the day. Oh, it's such a better train of thought than bleh.
Yes, it is. And so how many children do you have?
I have 3.
Okay, so you had to get yourself up.
Right.
That something good is going to happen. Then you had to get 3 other human beings to wake up.
And don't you know, they loved it when I came in and said, something good's going to happen to you. Get up before it doesn't.
Before it doesn't. Give them a choice there.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah, it's just learning to take your thoughts captivated, or captive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
So tomorrow morning, and what makes me smile is the thought of how many people are waking up going, all right, I'll do it. This is the day the Lord has made, and something good's gonna happen. It just entertains me.
It is entertaining.
Oh, goodness.
Oh my gosh. So when you're talking to like high school students, it's really important for them to feel like they're fitting in and they're belonging, and
Yeah.
and I know that is such a stressful time in life, that middle school, high school. And when you're talking to them, what kind of things do you tell them, or what wisdom do you share with them to help them to understand how to feel good about themselves, who they are, and
Right.
still feel like they're fitting in?
There was such, I will say, a shift when we moved down here, my kids were, Annabelle was going into fourth grade. Ryan was going into, I think, sixth or seventh grade, one of those two. And then Jalen was like a sophomore in high school. And so talk about pulling them out and shoving them in, and that whole, how do you create friends when you're in an environment where everybody already has friends? And so this was like literally hands-on happening. But I think my best training to help teach the kids, it came from Brene Brown. Hands down, she has the best information on what authenticity is and how to live wholeheartedly. And that was the goal, to teach the kids and going into the schools, is what the difference is between fitting in and belonging, because those are two different things. Fitting in says, what do you like? Oh, I like that too. What are you eating? Oh, I eat that too. That's trying to fit in. That's just trying to be who they are, not who you are.
Mhm.
There's a lot of not good things that come from that, because you're not yourself, and you're not ever comfortable, and you're not ever happy, and you don't feel worthy, and you can never measure up because you're trying to live somebody else's life. So instead, it's learning to belong. And learning to belong is, you have to love who you are. You have to know who you are first. It comes back to that. And then you have to be able to not shrink, but not puff up, but to stand on your sacred ground. And they either accept you or they don't. But even if they don't, you walk away with such a sense of pride with who you are. There's sadness and there's disappointment, because we all want to be liked. I mean, that's one of the 5 basic needs, is to be accepted. So when you're not, it is crushing, but it's not soul crushing. You just, you learn to say, that's all right, because I like who I am. And so I'll find my people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that, standing on your own sacred ground. That's
Mhm.
taking space in
Yeah,
between.
exactly. Exactly. And Renee says it so well. The don't shrink is that whole, you like that, I like that. You read that, I read that. I listen to that music too. That's shrinking back.
Mhm.
And the don't puff up, that that's where I tend to go, is, oh yeah, well, you don't have this. And um, have you seen my arms? Kind of make yourself bigger,
Uh-huh.
expense of shrinking them,
Mhm.
um, but not just standing in your space
Mhm.
and allowing people to see who you authentically are.
Mhm. That's awesome. So I know you also, you work with adults also, and I know, especially as women, we kind of lose ourselves
Yeah.
in our families, in our marriages, or sometimes in our career. And then, one day our kids are about to go out of the house and we think, who am I and where did I go?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
when people find themselves in that position, what would you suggest? What are things that we can do to actually go rescue ourselves back again?
Yeah, it's the search and rescue mode. The search and rescue mode. And again, do you see the common thread here? It's coming back to knowing who we are, who God made us to be. And all those things, all those situations that you said, your kids moved away, your job, all of this, those are just roles. Those are positions we were put in. That's not who we are. And I think that's where the struggle comes, because if you put your whole everything into your kids and nothing into yourself, and then your kids go away, yeah, that's emptiness. That's emptiness. And so the search and rescue begins. Um,
Yes.
and it's a matter of, we all search for meaning. So I'm a grandma.
Congratulations.
Crazy to say that, and now it's recorded. Um, But what is so fun to watch with little kids is how they develop. And all little kids start out with trying to find meaning. I mean, one of the very first words a kid learns is why, why? Because I said so. But all they're doing is trying to find meaning. And we don't ever lose that. We always, something happens, we try to find meaning, and it's either positive or negative. And so, as we have grown up and as we've collected all of this evidence, it is the meaning to who we are or why things happen to us. So, if the circle of things goes, your beliefs translates into your thoughts translate into your words translate into your actions, and your actions just justify your beliefs. So there's this wheel, right?
Mhm.
When if we shorten it a little bit, then we talk about what are the words we say to ourselves. There's our self-talk. I'm so stupid. We have to find the meaning. We have to find the proof. So during the day, instead of looking for the good, we're looking for proof that I'm so stupid. And don't go searching for what you don't want to find, because you'll find it. So once you find the proof, then it strengthens your belief. And we come in this negative circle, But again, it goes back to captivating our thoughts. If we can learn to say, here's who I am. I'm not stupid. I'm very smart. I'm extremely creative. And then we go searching for proof of that, we'll find it. And then that strengthens that belief. And then we say good things and we find it and we strengthen that belief. That's the search and rescue. But again, you got to go back to who am I? And find that foundation, regardless if you believe it or not. I mean, people can say, girl, you are amazing. You are such a giver. And you're like, oh, I don't think so. But if you write it down, put it on that sticky note, keep telling yourself, I am a giver, search for the proof. You're like, oh, okay, yes, you're right, I am. And then it comes around.
Right. So we always find what we're looking for.
We do. So be careful. My sweet friend Arabelle is one of those crazy ultra runners, and she runs with headlamps on in the middle of the mountains, hours, like I'm talking 24, 48 hours at a time, in the middle of the night on a single track thing all by herself. And somebody asked her just recently, how many bobcats did you see? And she's like, I don't go looking for them. I'm not going to search for something I don't want to find. She keeps that light directly in front of her and looks at the path that she is on. And I think that's such strong wisdom.
Yes.
Such strong wisdom. Don't go searching for something you don't want to find, because you will find it.
That's right. That's great. And yeah, you definitely want to stay focused. I'm sure there's some parts of the path where she could just fall off the edge if she was going in the wrong direction.
Focused.
Stay focused. What you want.
That's right.
So for you personally, what has given you the most happiness, joy, fulfillment?
Oh, Phil and I are about to celebrate 30 years of marriage, and I am so grateful. It has not been easy 30 years. It has been, you start out blissful. And then we realized each other didn't have the money. I'm like, oh, well, interesting. And the ups and downs. And if you as an individual don't know who you are, then when you put two people that don't know who they are together, that's an interesting thing. So in those 30 years, growing together and finding out who we are individually so that we can be better together. And along the way, we just made the commitment that divorce is not an option, which then leaves two options: live miserably together, or suck it up, figure it out, and let's grow together, put our egos aside. And that was hard, and yet here we are, getting ready to celebrate 30 years of marriage. Kids are just about all out of the house. I mean, they're in college and married, and also it's our time again. And I think it was such a neat thing that one of my friends said, that God's goal for you to be parents was only for a specific amount of time. He has goals for you as a couple. And that was such a exciting thing to think about. Of, okay, Phil, what do we want to do? Where are we being led? And then to see your kids grow and live and make great decisions and make horrible decisions and come out of it and actually do something that you go, oh, you listened to me? Okay, that was cool. Just become their own people. I mean, how can you not have such joy in your heart when you watch that? That's been really neat. Yeah, those are things that bring me joy. And that baby grandboy.
I know. Aren't they great? I love grandbaby.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love it.
Was there ever a time in your life when you had like an aha moment, like, oh.
Well, it was definitely with the arms and legs crossed at that retreat, at that workshop. That was such a needed moment to understand that one of the exercises they had us do was write down all of the major life events that we could remember. So writing all these things down. And then he said, what do those mean? And it was, I mean, Kimberly, you know me. I am not a negative person. And on this list, I was like, bleh, bleh. All of these things had such a negative connotation. Even my wedding, the first thought was, my dad didn't even want me to marry Phil. And I mean, on and on and on. And then he sent us away and said, okay, those are all lies. Those are the meanings you chose to put on these events. You can't go back and change the events, but you can go back and change the meaning of it. And I think by far that lesson was the hugest aha moment for me, and to carry on in this ministry is to go back and say, yeah, that really sucked at the time. But had it not happened, this would have never happened. And because of it, now I'm such a stronger person. And, you know, things like that. That was such an aha moment.
Yeah. And you have mentioned, your faith in God, and how has that influenced your life, your marriage?
I mean, go back to when you asked what brings you joy and happiness. Happiness is an inside job.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And if you don't like who you are, how are you going to be happy? And so for me, finding my relationship with the Lord and who he created me to be, and things about my personality that other people think are annoying, learning to embrace it, learning to say, I'm not trying to impress you. I'm trying to be grateful to God. And that's huge. Being able to grow in the relationship with the Lord and understanding what unconditional love is. There's no way you can love somebody if you don't love yourself. You can't. We say we can. I love my children more than me. Not possible. It isn't. So finding what unconditional love means, and then being able to forgive yourself. That was huge. That had to happen to me. We were living in Texas. And another part of the community that I reach out to and have such a heart for are teenage moms, because I found myself as a teenage a pregnant teenager. I don't know why I couldn't think of those words. And just that whole struggle of everything, of disappointment. I mean, you want to talk about limiting beliefs being built. Huh? They took root, and I watered them and fertilized them, and they were fancy. um, but to be able to forgive myself, to know that God forgives me, and to be able to forgive myself, that was a turning point in my life. Yeah. So um, it's important to me. I don't know how I would get through things if I didn't have that relationship that I have with the Lord.
Mhm.
And knowing that Phil's is different than mine. Everybody's is different, you know. Um, but being able to respect his relationship and my relationship, and being able to pull them together has been huge for us.
Mhm. So just getting back to this is the day.
Yes.
Yes. So what people are you reaching out to now? I know you mentioned athletes and you talked about the, just now the teenage girls, and who are
Yeah.
you reaching out to, and what is your main focus right now?
Right now, literally right now, is figuring out how to get This Is the Day out there, how to reach the pregnant teenagers in general. How do we reach the women who feel insignificant? How to reach the athlete who thinks that's who they are. I'm telling you, Kim, that's huge. That mentality of, if you've got parents who are living vicariously through you, I did not, but I wrapped myself up in I am a 5 foot basketball college player. And so that was a huge ego thing for me. And then when I blew my knees out and that was taken away, um, then what? So allowing yourself to know that the worth isn't because of the talent. So I think that's my focus now, is how do I get to those people? Um, yeah, so I'm just opening my mouth. I'm saying yes to you as you asked me to be on this.
Yes, and as people are listening, if
Yeah.
you have, if the people are listening have a way to get this out into the schools, please, I'm going to put Karen's information in the bottom of the notes here, so please reach out to her because.
And the biggest thing, I mean, the majority of the community around me is not, or public schools. And I have a whole secular thing to this. So I don't come in and say God, and this is the day that I've been given and something good's going to happen to me. Because, I know that God will find his way. I don't have to help him do that. I just need to help people want to find out who they are. And so, if you are a public school coach or teacher, don't be afraid of that. In fact, that's where I started. I started because my kids are all in public schools. And so, yeah, I've got both the secular and non-secular.
Right. And we just have to get this word out. And
Yes.
I know from being in CrossFit with you, and also I think I did, oh, this is the day. Was that the same thing I did a few years ago with you? Yeah. And it was amazing. But I mean, Karen, you have so much energy and enthusiasm, and it's fun. It's just so much fun. And so you're the perfect person to work with young people because that's what they want. They want to see energy. They're energetic. They want to see the energy. They want,
Right.
to feel that. And you
Thank you.
are it. You are in it.
Thank you.
A little bundle of energy there. 5 foot
Have some energy.
bundle of energy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So if people want to actually contact you or get a hold of you, find out more about what you're doing, how would they do that?
They would go to thisistheday.org, and that's my website. And there's a contact information on that. I do have I'm so excited for this speaking engagement coming up. There is a 1-day workshop called Hello Beautiful, and it's designed to see your beauty through God's eyes. And it is going to be power packed. I am one of speakers. There are 6 speakers and recording artists that are going to be there. You can find the information on that on Eventbrite and just look up Hello Beautiful Women's Conference, Atlanta, Georgia. It's December 7th, and it is going to be powerful. Yeah, yeah. I don't even know how to, like, if you go to it and look at the speakers and what they're speaking on, it's going to be phenomenal. So I'm excited about that. That's at the Marriott in the Galleria.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's exciting, and congratulations for being part of that lineup.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. It's so awesome. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for sharing your wisdom. And I'm so excited for what you're creating because it is needed. It's so needed.
Yay. Thank you
so much.
Absolutely. I just love that you asked me to be on it. And what fun things I've gone through and started listening to different podcasts on yours, and what powerful people you have found. Yeah. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, we'll see you in the gym.
Okay.
Soon.
Excellent. Thanks, Kimberly.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.